Kids, welcome to the video. So today we're going to be looking at the appeal of Chevrolet. And for today's example vehicle, we're going to have a 2019 Chevrolet Impala, which is a good looking vehicle. As you can see, it's sat next to a Camry, a 2020 Camry. The Camry looks bolder, edgier, sits a bit lower. But I wanted to talk about the appeal of cars like this Chevy Impala or these other two. And to me, that is the cost of ownership. So even though they don't hold their value as well, the cost of ownership is cheaper when you're getting oil changes, when you have to fix things like windshields and other things, even versus a Toyota, which is a very reliable vehicle. And it's not that the Toyota or the Honda or the Mazda or Nissan's going to break down, but a lot of times they pack a lot of other features. For instance, Toyota, a couple years ago started including their safety sense in all the vehicles, which is great. But if you damage the bumper or like a side mirror with a camera or something like that, it's going to be super expensive. And those are things you necessarily don't use a lot. So I think, Chevrolet and other domestic car makers offer vehicles that give you what you need, and they don't, pile in other features that you use maybe 20% of the time. And so that makes the vehicle simpler and the cost of ownership lesser. So especially if you incorporate kids and going on trips, having people in cars, inevitably something's going to happen to your vehicle that you don't intend to have happen. So we're going to step to the back of this Impala, and this is a good looking vehicle from the front and the back. I think it's not as style aggressively or boldly as a Camry, but that'll keep it, from aging badly. And this is another example of an Impala, and here's another one. We're going to take a look at this silver one. And another thing that really is something that I find appealing for domestic vehicles is just the comfort. So when I step inside this Impala, the seat is super comfortable. The seats in this Impala are more comfortable than a Camry, a Mazda 6, a Nissan Altima, and a Honda Accord, hands down. Every time I get in a domestic vehicle, I feel like the seats are more comfortable, SUVs included. Because the seats have more padding, they're thicker. The bolstering may not be as great, but this car feels so much better. My brother drives a late model Mazda 6, and when I get in it, we sit lower and the seats are harder.
All right, folks, thank you for watching. I apologize for the bad lighting in this video. I was getting over some illness and was just having a hard time this day, but I just want to jump to the chase and say Chevrolet vehicles just feel more like home. It's like going back to mom and dad's house or grandparents' house. They're just more familiar. So the four things that I was going to touch on in this video are, number one, these vehicles are just more traditionally handsome, and they're just less overstyled, so they're going to age better. They're not going to look as edgy or eye-catching out the gate, but that's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make just because the styling definitely looks good. And then number two is repairs, and we talk about how reliable, Honda, Toyota are, even Mazda, but the thing is, all vehicles are going to incur some sort of damage because you have family members, friends in them, rocks pop up, different dings and dents are going to happen, and it's just easier to replace parts. You don't need as many specialty pieces and tools to do that. It's cheaper if you have to take it somewhere. For instance, I had a friend with an old Buick, which is still a GM vehicle, with an old Buick Century way back in the day, and it was like 2 clips to pull out the headlight because it got damaged on the road. It was just easier to replace the side mirror because of some damage that happened there, and to pull off the instrument cluster. So just a lot of different things that GM does that just makes repair less frustrating. And number three is comfort. You cannot tell me American vehicles, especially Chevys, are not more comfortable than Honda, Toyota, Nissan, even Hyundai, Kia vehicles. They're just, the seats are more cushy, they're wider, they're bigger. The bolstering's not there, but they feel more couch-like and relaxing and easier to sit in for longer periods of time. Even when you jump into something like a Suburban or a Tahoe, I like those better. No, they don't feel as sporty, but 90% of our driving is commuting. So it fits the bill for that. And speaking of driving, Chevrolets are easier to drive than Japanese vehicles, Korean vehicles, and other foreign makes. Yes, those vehicles feel more sporty, but it's just easier to maneuver about town and just feel comfortable and at ease while driving the vehicle. And also the electronics are just easier to figure out and just easier to learn. The learning curve is not as hard in those vehicles, especially when you're renting a car. And that's one thing I'm going to miss with Chevrolet not making cars anymore. And even Ford, when you get in vehicles, just figuring out infotainment has just become this massive headache from what it was. So that's the gist of this vehicle. And as you can see, like, Chevy can definitely make, vehicles that can compete with the best of them. And I really do wish they made cars still. I get it. The margins just aren't there. It's just easier to sell trucks and SUVs, but RIP Chevy cars. I would still recommend looking out for older ones like the Malibu you see in the corner over there. I have a video of that in my channel. Check that out. Very handsome vehicle, very comfortable vehicle, very capable vehicle. And if you take good care of it, you can have those vehicles for several years trouble-free. So thank you all for watching.